The sad truth is that business intelligence has a very high failure rate. Go ahead and Google it. You're going to find something between 60 to 80% failure rate, depending on the source that you look at. Let's talk about this failure rate, why it happens, and how you can avoid becoming yet another statistic. I'm Jeff, and this is Off the Charts with Jeff. The main problem typically ends up being a complete communication breakdown between the business and the technical. On one side, you've got the business people. And instead of really being focused on requirements and behavior and the content that they need to see, they tend to get very involved in the evaluation process. They're looking at software from what they consider usable, and from a self-service standpoint, when at the end of the day, that doesn't really matter because they're not the ones using it. You've got the technical people who tend to get forced into development within a vacuum. They may be given a list of metrics, but they don't have an understanding of the why. Let me give you some examples that I've actually run into on my day-to-day work. A few years ago, I was on site with a client and sitting in the room with their technical people, and the C-level walked in and said, "Okay, guys, I'm sorry, I gotta go to another meeting in 5 minutes, but we need a dashboard. We need a dashboard for sales, and we need a dashboard for operations. Okay, see ya." And as you can imagine, my jaw just dropped. How the heck are we possibly gonna succeed on a project where we can't even get the details about what we're needing, who's the audience, and what's important? We see this all the time. I get cases where people come in and say, "Here's our current report. Go build a dashboard." Or, "Here's our database schema. Okay, go." Or, "Here's our current dashboard. It doesn't look very good, does it? Fix it." The last one's a little bit better. "Here's a list of metrics. Okay, go." But at the end of the day, that's not enough detail to go and build an effective dashboard. The problem is that nobody's really sitting down to understand what's needed at the end of the day, and what tends to get implemented is something that completely misses the mark or becomes something that people look at from an interest point of view once and have no reason to go back and look at it again. Most companies fail to understand the behavioral outcomes that a dashboard needs to provide, and instead end up focusing completely on results dashboards. This is the whole KPI versus KRI discussion. If you're not familiar with this, I'll give you a high level, but this is kind of a deep topic in itself. But essentially, on a good dashboard, you have key performance indicators. These are indicators that are leading up to the results that you want to see. Most of the dashboards that get created are built with result indicators. The results we want to see, but by the time we look at what's on the dashboard, there's nothing we can do to change it. It's really interesting to go see what my sales were over this last 6 months, but I can't do anything about it by the time I'm seeing that. The rule of thumb is if you have a dollar sign in front of any number, that's a result indicator. And there's nothing you can do about it. It's great history, it's nice to know trends, sure, but that's not an actionable outcome. You also need to consider human behavior based on what they're seeing. Ask yourself a few of these questions. As an employee looking at this dashboard, is there anything I can do to improve my numbers? Will every employee give me the same answer if they're asked about what action they need to take? Am I measuring something that's going to lead to the results I want? You really do have to be careful about what you measure because you might actually get it. I've seen cases where people wanted to, for their sales staff, increase the number of meetings that took place. So they put dashboards up and they asked, "Okay, every time there's a meeting, I need to see it logged." Suddenly, the employees are looking at it going, "Well, there's my number of meetings." So they go and start logging things incorrectly. Any conversation we have gets put in there to make their number look bigger. The problem is they forgot about the quality side of things. You can't just track a metric without quality. So maybe we track number of meetings, but we also need to, as we enter these, be tagging who's the meeting with and maybe the title so that it's with a qualified person. That way we're not just tracking the number. Because if you don't consider that human behavior, you may get a result that you don't expect and is not leading to the outcomes that you actually need. Some other questions. Does this dashboard exist so that you can monitor someone? Or is it there to help them manage? A lot of people build dashboards just so they can yell at people about their numbers. That's not effective from a managing standpoint. And lastly, is your data believable? Data issues are a major problem with dashboards. So even if everything else is perfectly aligned, if you have a couple of numbers that are out of whack, you're going to see people start questioning what's in there. And if there's any question about what's being presented, eventually it's all going to stop being used. So as you can see, it's very important for the technical guy to really understand what needs to be seen at the end of the day. Business needs to sit down, very clearly explain the outcomes and the why, rather than just the what. When we're building dashboards for our clients, we actually reverse the standard development methodology. We start with the business person. We sit down and we figure out who's looking at this, why are they looking at this, what kind of outcomes are they looking at. That allows us to define what sort of visualizations make sense. From there, you kind of work your way backwards to the data. Whereas you'd be surprised, but a lot of people in this industry go to their data and go, well, what can we show? And then push that down to a dashboard. That's not very effective. Now, at the end of the day, there's a lot of reasons why business intelligence projects can fail. But from a lot of the research that industry analysts have done, it's this alignment towards business and technical that's one of the biggest problems. So definitely make sure that you've got these ducks in order first. Another really big one is self-service. If you actually look at the failure rate of self-service projects, you'll find that that percentage jumps up even higher. If you want to learn more about protecting yourself from self-service failures, take a look at a video that we did on self-service versus silver service. Actually a really good way to properly expose self-service to users while bringing down your risk. That's it for today. And if there's anything you'd like to see or questions on any of the content, we'd love to hear from you. Ask Jeff at dundas.com. Thank you.